What show is this?
Welcome to episode 4 of the Realtors. I'm David Blair. He's Trevin Perez. How's everybody doing today?
Hey, we're doing fantastic.
So what's going
Great
on in the
day.
market? What's going on in the market, Trevin? We were talking a little bit earlier. Tell me what's going on. The sky is falling. What's happening?
I think so, man. I think the marketplace says the sky is falling, and the fear is in the air. There's the Dow Jones dropped 1,000 points in the last 3 days. So, of course, it caused a lot of headache and strife among investors, and everybody alike. And let's see, what caused it, right? We're not experts here, but from what we understand, a couple of things are affecting it, right? One, our friend, the Fed chief, Jerome Powell, did not lower rates in July. And, the chairman of the financial markets is supposed to be proactive, not reactive. He decided not to drop any of the basis points, just a little bit. And as a result, the inflation is still high, interest rates are high, but the jobs report came in extremely low. And that came in on Friday. So, of course, that caused some additional panic in the market. And the Dow dropped like a sack of pancakes, when you drop your plate. So that has everyone feeling like the big R is upon us.
Don't say
Big
it.
R. Don't
Don't
say
say
it.
it.
There's another R I was going to say, but I think my kids are always like, Dad, you can't say that word. I was just looking at the Joe Rogan comedy special on Netflix. You got to check it out. Yo, hilarious. But no, I won't say the R word I was referring to.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
Blair likes me to be very optimistic,
Yeah.
audience. So I won't say it, but yeah, we're having some concerns in our market.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, everything is fantastic. What are you doing?
So I listed a condo yesterday, and we were talking about pricing. And one of the things that came up was pricing from where it was 3, 4 months ago, based on the sold comps at that time to what it is right now. And there's a difference. There's a difference in pricing. It's lower. So the seller's concern was, is the news that I hear today with the financial market, is that going to impact me, and where our price is. And I told her, and I'll say the same thing now. I said, time will tell. I said, I think we've put the property out there at a price that is in line with where comps are right now. And you have to put the property out there for a 30-day time period, I think, get exposure to it, do your job, and see what kind of feedback you get. And then make adjustments as necessary. I mean, what else can you do at this point?
No, you're absolutely right. You got to put your best foot forward. I think that the challenge, though, Dave, is the fact that pricing was so high during the COVID years. It's now looking unrealistic right now. So sellers are showing a lot of fear,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
realizing how high prices were.
Well, I've got a condo that we put on the market last. It's hard to say this because it's August. We put it on the market at the end of last year. Difficult time. We put it on the market around the holiday season, and we put it on the market at 250. Right around that time period, there were comparables that had sold within the last 30, 60-day time period from December when we put it on the market that would indicate that we could be in that 250 market. And it just didn't sell. We kept moving it down. We're at 199.9 on that property right now. So we've made some huge adjustments. But that's just what the market is. Like you said, I mean, we're at such a high point. It's just started coming back down. And I think that's all. Uh, Real estate's always going to be location driven. So I do think that that's not across the board. I'm not trying to say you're seeing those kind of reductions in every single area. But in the case of individual properties, whether it's just desirability of that area, neighborhood, in this case, the condo development, those things kind of factor in. So, well, hey, let's jump into some questions this week. We got a couple of things that came up. I've got an agent question that we'll get to here in just a little bit, but one of the things that I see, and I don't know if you see it in your market, is that there's a wide variety of homes. There can be we sell new construction, we sell resale homes, we sell condos, and I've got properties on either side of that as far as inventory. So one of the things that always comes up are what are some of the pros and cons of buying an older home? What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I think that the pros always outweigh the con. At the end of the day, I think it's about you falling in love with a property, and if it's meant for you, and it's that special emotional bond that you're willing to commit a 30-year mortgage on, uh, it's worth it, right? But specifically, I think that some of the things with older homes that go into question are things like the insulation of the windows.
Mm,
Homes that are over 20 to 25 years old or greater, windows are going to leak. They just are. They're just not built to withstand the UV rays and all of the other complexities of sealing in a house, especially here in Florida, right? Your
mm,
air conditioner is good for maybe 15 years because we keep those systems running 24/7. They just get really beat up. Whether it's a wood frame or a concrete block plays a big part. A lot of those older homes, especially on the early 1900 sides, are going to be frame built. So you have some extra care that you have to tend to, maybe around termites or water damage. Just making sure it's sealed, right? So paint is just such a vital part of a house. So I think that an older house gives you character, room size. Again, character is just amazing, right? Whereas a new house is more energy efficient, and you're going to be paying a premium on it, especially because the lot size is extremely smaller on new homes versus a lot of the older properties. So that's just a few that I was able to put together here in my thoughts about that question. What are you thinking, Dave?
I like older homes. I sell a lot within my area. We have a couple of historic districts, one here in St. Augustine, one in Jacksonville. Like you said, character, I don't think you can compare. Newer construction for the most part, although there's a lot of different elevations and designs with the various builders here in the area. For the most part, a new construction home built within the last 5 years looks pretty much cookie cutter, as we would say. I mean, they look exactly alike. There's some different front elevations, different colors, stone accent, things like that. But they look kind of all the same. Whereas some of those older properties just really have some nice features. To your point, there's a lot of things that have to be updated because they're not energy efficient. So I think if you can get the best of both worlds, if you can get a nice older home that's been updated, maybe has a brand new roof on it, maybe they've updated the windows, updated the kitchen and baths, then you're kind of cooking with gas at that point. But with that said, there's a lot of different floor plans because the family, I think, from homes that were built in the 1950s to what's built now is completely different. You used to have a traditional 1950s floor plan would consist of separate living room, separate dining room. Families at that time would gather in the dining room and it was a separate space. To whereas if you go into 80-90% of new construction homes right now, I think you're probably going to see an open floor plan to where the family room is open into the kitchen. That's where everybody hangs out at. If you're having parties, you're having guests, that's where everybody kind of congregates. So it's just a different feel when you go into an older home. I've got a friend that has got a beautiful property in an area called Avondale here that we went to a Christmas party last year, and it was challenging to get everyone in the same room because there's a lot of smaller space, small dining room, small living room, kitchen area. So you're not going to get 20, 30 people in that space together. So it's just really depends on, I think, what you're looking for as far as, what your family dynamic is. Do you gather in the dining room? Do you gather in the kitchen? But I think if you can get the best of both worlds, with an older property, I kind of lean towards that just because I like the look and feel of it. So, so to that
Yeah.
point, we talk about neighborhoods. We talk about the differences between neighborhoods, and there's a huge difference in typically in neighborhoods where you see a lot of those older, more established homes, whether they're built in the 1920s or the 1950s, compared to neighborhoods that you see now where you have smaller lot sizes. The homes are much closer together. But if you're a buyer that's out there, one of the questions we have is, how can I learn about my new neighborhood? So what are some of your thoughts of, you've got a buyer, they're looking at properties, you're sending them different properties that are coming available, and they want to learn about that neighborhood. What are some of your suggestions?
Yeah, so I think that online search tools, Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com. I'm going to compile a list of realtor generated tools that I have access to as a licensed agent. So I'm going to share a lot of that data via email with all the pertinent links so they can do the most educated research possible. And then what ends up happening is, they'll come back and ask questions about some of that data because it's all third party generated, or it's articles or what have you, right? The online world is just so big and massive with information. And it becomes a question about HOA or not HOA, and the particulars of the neighborhood, right? New versus old, as well as, oh, by the way, CDD. Is it a developing community where there is a additional tax for 30 years on that subdivision that's going to be an additional 1% or less of taxes every year on that community? Now, it's going to be gorgeous, but you're going to pay more taxes over the life and span of that property. I have a listing that my seller, we've been on the market now for about 120 days, and he's worried that that CDD is affecting it. And that's community development something. I always forget the last D, or maybe I misplaced the D, but it's a CDD, and that's really common here in Central Florida and South Florida too, I would imagine, over in your side of town as well. But yeah, I would say that those are the sources of data I would use to get a feel for the neighborhood. I also try to tell clients, drive through the neighborhood after work,
Hmm.
to see what it
Good point.
looks like when people are, not at work. Yes, people work from home a lot, but cars are not there. It's quiet during the day. It's better to see how it is after 6 p.m. or on the weekends, or how about Friday night, just to see what kind of neighborhood are you committing to.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
So community development district is the
Development
last D in there.
district.
So just take that quick note down.
Thank
I
you,
think
Professor.
um, a lot of I agree with just about all your points on that, because I do something very similar. A lot of people don't know it, but there's a practice. I don't think it's so much now as it used to be maybe years ago in real estate, called steering, where you could be found guilty of actually pushing a buyer into a particular neighborhood, or pushing away from a certain neighborhood. You can't really do that as a realtor. It's against our code of ethics to do that. So I think you have to be fair and share the information that you do have. Because we're in this online age, there's so much information that you can find online,
Yeah.
within various websites. We're not going to promote any particular website here today, especially without a paid endorsement to us. But the citydata.com, I will say citydata.com, or citydata.org. Okay, don't Google the second one. So citydata.org. If you go to that, then that will actually give you the complete demographics on all of the neighborhood, whether it's the price point, um, the average income. On It'll tell you everything that you need to know. So it really just depends, and that's what I tell a lot of buyers when they're asking me. They're like, "What do you know about the neighborhood?" If I have any firsthand knowledge, I'll share that. Otherwise, I'll just kind of redirect and say, you probably need to look at some of the sites in there and see what's important to you. So it's kind of funny. I was looking at one of the sites about a week ago, and the particular question from this buyer was, what's the crime rate, within that area. So I'll share mine in a minute, but I want to go back to you. So how do you respond to that if a customer asks you, what's the crime rate like in this area? What's your response to that typically?
I thought you were going to share first, and then you were going to come back to me. Don't put me on the microscope for such a question. That's a loaded question, especially after you said, "Yeah, that's steering." This is also a form of steering. You're steering me down a bad road. I'm going to wait for you.
I'll go. So with what was the question? What was the question? You've immediately I've lost where I was at as far as the
Oh
actual
my
question
god!
was. So the website that regarding the crime rate, came up, and you'd be surprised if you go on to you can go into some of the nicest neighborhoods that you think there's no crime, and there's these little icons of burglary, assault, murder.
Yeah,
I like the one with the little bullseye because that's shootings. So you'll see those in just about all areas, and I can't speak to your area, but in Northeast Florida, the neighborhoods can change drastically just within a few streets. You can be in one of the greatest neighborhoods in our area here, and you can go about maybe a mile down the road, and the dynamics of that neighborhood change drastically. So I think it's just about getting as much information, driving the neighborhood, like you said,
yeah.
early, in the morning hours, around midday, on the weekends, all of those things at any time, so that you can really get a good feel for that property at any given time. So anything further on that?
Yeah, I would say that the one thing I like to do and share with my buyers is go to the schools.org.
Hmm.
Schools.org, third party. You want to look at the education system around the neighborhoods that you're looking to live in. It gives you an idea on who the teachers are, the schools, how people love or hate their schools. Everyone loves being giving a review, a blind review online,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So, I think you get just as good reviews as well as you probably do bad reviews, just in general, right, in our society. But I think it's a great example and way to judge how much community exists in that neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I want to go to we've got, as you can see on the ticker at the bottom of the screen, if you go to trevindaverealtors@gmail.com, you can post your questions on a weekly basis. We appreciate any feedback, any questions that you have to offer. We did have a question this week. This is from Steve Lupton with Radiant Realty. So Steve asks, if starting in August, is it mandatory that I join NEFAR to have access to the MLS? So NEFAR is the Northeast Florida Association of Realtors. So I'll speak to that because that is my board. No, you actually don't have to join NEFAR, but you do have to be a member of a local board somewhere. Somewhere, whether it's within Orlando, where Trevin's at, South Florida. You do have to be a member of a board somewhere. So, in other words, I think what the question was is, can anyone just come in and join the MLS? The answer is no, you can't. Now, you can have access to the MLS through like an IDX feed, but you're not going to have direct access like realtors do that are members of a board, where you can go in, you can input information as far as listing information, change that information as far as changing the status or that sort of thing. So I don't know, is it the same in your market, Trevin?
Yeah, I would agree. You have to first be a member of the National Association of Realtors, and then be a member of a local board. Here in Orlando is the Orlando MLS, run by Stellar, and yeah, you got to be a member. You got to pay to play. And
Okay.
also, I want to say, just for clarity, you mentioned IDX, and what we're referencing is a data exchange, the internet data exchange, where third-party companies get access to all of our listings, and transaction history occurs as a byproduct of the local board sharing it with these third-party companies that David said does not sponsor our show, so I can't mention names.
There you go. There you go.
Boom.
So Steve's second question is, how much is the annual NEFAR membership? So the annual NEFAR membership, Northeast Florida Association of Realtors, is going to cost you about $600 to $700 annually per year. So that's the cost to just be a member of NEFAR. That does not include your MLS fees, which is separate, or your e-key fee. So your E key is, of course, your phone access to where you access our super lockbox system that we put on properties. So that's the answer to the second question. Same within your area, same range, price range as far as the membership dues.
Yeah, yeah, the dues are about the same. I hate talking dues. I mean, God, you're gonna have me check my bills to see if I'm current.
Well, they hit you. They where they hit you at, it's ridiculous because they hit you in January. So, you
Hmm.
just got through the Christmas holidays, and you're trying to get things going again. You got to pay those credit card bills down for everything that you just charged up over the month of December, and then bam,
Bam.
right in January, here, go ahead and take this big ass bill and go ahead and pay this. And then when you recover from that, they hit you around June, around mid-year. They say, "Oh, wait, there's
Right,
more. There's
right.
more. Here's your MLS fee if you want to go ahead and pay
That's
that
right.
as well, because you can't
Yeah,
do one without the other. So you get the
absolutely,
joy of both of those. And that
absolutely.
fans is not just that's just a small portion of what you pay to become a real estate agent. So real quick on kind of a segue on that. So in August, obviously we've talked several times about some of the changes that are kind of come up in August. Do you think we're going to have some members that are going to bail out? You think some people are going to say, "Yeah, this is not for me"?
I absolutely do. Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's face it, for a couple of reasons. One, we're all just figuring out what to do, and nobody knows it with certainty on how the best flow and delivery is going to be, right, for these new laws. Number two, um, you got a lot of the part-time agents we talk about that we love so much, and they're going to just say, this isn't my cup of tea, right? And then number three, I think that you can, there are active agents out there who are investors who may not need or want the local MLS board because there's a lot of third party tools that get access to the data and that they could use and pay for at probably lower costs than they would to be a member of the board. So I think there's going to be a little bit of confusion. Yeah.
It's what I call a cleansing. We have one, from time to time, in the industry, and I think um, I think uh, I think agents that are not serious about what they do are going to fall by the wayside, and that's just what happens. It's not for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a tough business. You do work a lot of hours. A lot of what we do kind of goes unnoticed, but there's a lot of time and effort that's put into this. And if it's not for you, then I wish you well doing something else. I'm going to continue on. I've been doing this for 25 years. I don't know if I mentioned that or not a couple of times.
Wow.
Um,
25 years. That's
so
a long time.
yeah, it is. It is. So I'm going to continue doing that. And if so for the fellow realtors that don't make it past August, bunch of losers sitting around a bar, I used to be in sales. It's a tough racket. Yeah, okay, I get it. So long.
Hit the road, Jack.
So Steve's on a mission here. Steve's on a mission to not pay. Apparently, he doesn't want to pay a board fee. He doesn't want to pay his MLS access. He's really. I get it. I get it, Steve. I see where you're at. But so his last question was: starting in August, can a buyer submit a repair request to the seller on the new Farbar contract? And that's a real easy one. So go ahead, Trevin. What do you think?
Man, I'm going to be nice. I don't know, Steve, but I thank you for your question. I'm going to say yes. You absolutely 100% can submit a repair request to the seller on the purchase agreement. You have it within your right to ask for what's fair and
Yeah,
negotiate it.
yeah. So do you think so? So real world experience or situation today. I got a repair request this afternoon. Home inspection went well. The homeowners take really great care of this property. It was built in 2004, which is
Mhm.
not an older home, obviously,
Nope.
only 20 years old. But some of the things tend to break down. The windows were probably not the greatest in the property, so we've got some fogged windows to deal with. So they came in and they're asking us to replace 6 or 7 windows. Now, when I say windows, um, primarily what they're referring to is the glass. They're not being as
Oh,
specific to say they want to replace the whole window, but it's
mhm.
fogged fogged windows. If you don't
Right.
know, for people that are listening, that used to be considered a cosmetic condition, and then some years ago, it was determined that obviously the window has failed, and the barrier is actually broken inside the window itself, so it became a repair issue. Sometimes it comes up on appraisals, sometimes it doesn't. So where my point is with this is, do you would you offer a credit, or where do you lean towards on doing repairs? Is it doing the actual repair, or is it just getting a price for what that repair would be and then offering a credit to that buyer?
Yeah, yeah. I think that it's always best to do a credit. Come up with a credit that you can offer to the buyer, let them get it repaired, or put that money toward replacing a window instead of just a minor repair. Because typically, what you're referencing is that seal. There's gas in between the two panes of the window, and when that cracks and that gas is gone, it causes it's a sign that the windows are no longer functioning correctly. So that's what that is. But yeah, I would say it's always best to do a cash credit. What do you like to do?
I like to do credit as well. I understand that the situation you get into a lot of times is a you've got a buyer that says, I don't want to deal with that. I want to move into the home. I don't want to have to take a credit and then have to worry about calling a window company to come out and get prices and do the work. I understand both sides of it, but from a seller standpoint, if you've gone out and at least you've done the heavy lifting, you've had a company that comes out and says, hey, this is what we would charge. You typically want to get 2 to 3 estimates. I don't think it's fair to just go by one. Get 2 to 3 estimates if you can, but keeping in mind, there's a small window in which you have to negotiate that repair. So you don't have just 30 days and you're at the mercy of a contractor coming out. So that's the most difficult thing I think sometimes is that you're at the mercy of contractors coming out. If it were a situation to where I could pick up the phone today and then 3 contractors would be out there giving me pricing, it would be easy. But a lot of times what you run into is you can't get contractors to come out and give that pricing. The second point, I think, from a seller standpoint, is they may have in their mind, okay, I'm going to do this repair, and it has to be done as our contract states in a workmanlike manner. So it has to be done professionally. But at the same time, if you're selling a property, you're not going to go out for example, and say, okay, I'm going to buy Pella windows as opposed to something that's maybe significantly priced less. Whereas the buyer may say, hey, this is my home, I want that, and so that's where you kind of have to have a meeting of the minds and say, okay, we've gotten some prices on this. This is what it looks like as far as the estimate. Take this credit and you go do what you want. If you want to upgrade and you want the window that Trevor's referring to with the lithium gas and the neon and the Wi-Fi, if you want all that in your windows, that's cool. But that doesn't mean that the seller has to pay for that on their way out. So that's kind of my thoughts
Exactly.
with it. Yeah. Um,
And before you
okay.
move on, I mean, for a second here, oh, and you know what? We have to add that to the list. We haven't talked about solar and windows. We need to add that to the list because the price of doing windows and solar panels, amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing and
we'll
not
call
in a
that.
great way. Because
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, we'll call that ways to kill your equity and make sure that you can't
Yes.
sell the house immediately after buying it. So we'll title
Yes.
it under that because
Yes.
that's really, I think, what it falls under. Unless you're going to stay there for 20, 30 years to kind of recoup that. So maybe for next week. So my favorite segment, Kiss, Marry, Kill. You know how it goes. So we've got three that we put out there. So this week, pretty easy, I think. Home inspectors, appraisers, and underwriters. Kiss, Mary, kill. Trevin, go.
I think you should go first on this one. I don't know. It just feels to me like you should just take it for, or rather that no. You know what? Let me go first. Sorry. Let me get the microphone back from you. Um, I would say that okay. I'm going to, man. I'm going to have to. I don't even know. Let's see. Who am I killing here on this list? So what you said, home inspection,
Appraisers.
appraisers, or underwriters. All
Yeah.
right. I think that I am
Who do you
going
hate
to,
the least? Who do you hate the least in that list?
I hate the least. Home inspectors.
Yeah, yeah,
I think I'll marry a home inspector.
yeah.
Because I think that if well, we see enough houses every day, and we deal with enough clients and enough transactions over the years. My deep and long 8 years of work, which surpasses anybody with 25 years of experience. I mean, my God, come on, it's like, please.
You have 8 years of modern experience, which is probably the equivalent of 25 years of my outdated experience.
Well, I have to give you all of the credit, though, Dave, because you are the professor of real estate.
You go. That's me. That's
Yeah.
me.
So anyway, yeah, I would say that I'm going to kiss the inspector. I think that it's just easy to understand his job, his or her job,
Mhm.
and what they're going to find. Most part, I'm not surprised by their job. It's those things that are outside of our purview, right? What's in the attic, or
Mhm.
what's like underground. If there's pillars, if the house sits above the concrete ground, or if it's framed, like you know, it's pretty obvious. I'm going to say that out of an abundance of no choice, zero choice. Okay, I would
Mhm.
use another word that starts with an F before
Mhm.
that, zero choice. But appraisers, I would have to say I have to marry, because, man, I'm always disappointed by the appraisers. Always, always, always. So I swear I would rather kill them, but I would hate for an appraiser to see this and be doing a house for me, because I
True.
feel like they have total power. They're like the mafia.
Mhm.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Underwriters, I guess I would get rid of, just because of the processing of the deal.
Mhm.
But yeah, this kiss Mary kill for me today does not work for me. I got to talk to management about these questions, man. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I really had no feelings one way or
Yeah.
the other about this list, but you've brought out some level of anxiety about the appraisal process. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna
So
stop
for
there.
so for me, kiss, marry, kill. Kiss. I'm gonna say the home inspector. I'm okay with them for the most part. Home inspectors. We kind of touched last week a little bit on agents, when agents you know, inject themselves into the transaction. I don't think home inspectors should do that. Home inspectors will typically even I've even seen it go as far as to say, that they uh, they advertise that they don't kill deals. What they're referring to in that is it's a buyer's right to have a home inspected, and they always should have the home inspected. So when we've gone into that time period, um, last year, where they were waiving inspections, I think was absolutely ridiculous. I would never suggest that to a potential buyer. I think that you should always have the property inspected. You should know what you're getting. But again, I think sometimes the home inspection can be a little vanilla in that they're covering a lot of basics, and if it's outside of their expertise, then they're deferring it and saying, okay, we recommend that you go get a roof inspector. Well, we recommend that you go get a structural engineer. So basically, I don't think they're trying to dodge bullets necessarily. Sometimes it's just out of the scope of what they can actually do. The home inspection is really just the first layer, and this probably comes into play more with, like we were talking about before, with older homes, where you get into structural issues and things like that, to where you have to dig a little bit deeper. I think what you should do as a buyer, if you look at that and say, okay, the home inspector is giving me a report, look at that report, and if there's some red flags in there, then maybe go to that second level. I see you're choked up about it, so I'll move on. So the next one is on the Mary. I guess it's a toss up for me as well. I mean, I would say appraisers. I would say appraisers. It's funny to me. I got calls this past week from a couple different appraisers, and they call and they're like, "Hey, you sold this property at such and such street. Can you give me some feedback? Was there any, were there any concessions, anything like that in the contract?" And I'll give that information, which I find funny because I know when it's the opposite and you call an appraiser, they're very defensive. They're defensive for a reason. Our laws changed years ago to where you're supposed to have minimal contact with that appraiser, and rightfully so. You don't want it to be an unfair appraisal process. So they're kind of at arm's length right now, I think. And so it's a little bit distant. So that can be like a marriage, I think. So, and then kill would be underwriters. Um, it's just the you never see them. They're locked away in some little dark room somewhere, making their little decisions, and you send in the documentation, and they're asking that, okay, well, you sending it to us on an 8 by 10. We really prefer it on 11 by 14. So if you just resend that back to us about 8 more times, we'll go ahead and give you a decision. So for that reason, I would kill them. Yeah, every day, then twice on Sunday maybe. So that's just my thoughts on it. So that's all I've got for this week. I mean, my throat's sore from talking too much as usual. Trevin is the responsible party for that. If he would
Wow.
continue to, maybe just lift himself up, and I would talk a lot less. So he's over there coughing. I actually need some Secrets or some Chloraseptic or something right
See,
now, just because
see.
I've talked too much. So that's all I've got. Do you have anything else for this week, Trevin? What do you think?
No, I think this is a good week. We always painstakingly meet for several hours, developing our list of questions or topics, and making sure they're so compelling. I just asked our viewers, give us a review. Share your thoughts, give us email feedback. We take time out of our day when we could be with our clients. So we welcome you sharing constructive input and
Yeah.
helping us with questions for the following week.
Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent, or just mainly not so much bad or indifferent, mainly just good. So if you want to just share, what we've done that's really good and that you've appreciated, and less criticism, I'm fine with that. But email is at the bottom. We'd like for you to go onto our YouTube channel. We're putting this content out there for our buyers, sellers, and fellow agents. Follow us on YouTube, and that's all I have for this week. I'm out.
That's it.
See ya.
Take care.